Please welcome Nyari Samushonga.
Good morning. It's good to be back in chilly Malmö. When I left Johannesburg on Thursday night, it was 26 degrees Celsius, and I wasn't coping, so I made some good decisions and came over here. And African that I am, I've been hugging everyone I recognize with coronavirus afoot. Not everybody is quite appreciative of it, but we're going to have us a time. So it's really good to be back at Beauty and Code. And this year, talking about a slightly different thing. And this is my take on what I view are our misguided loyalties. And for me, it came from this view of the work that we all do starts with some kind of a dream. There's a mission we have, there's something we want to achieve. And between the dream and the reality, I've experienced some traumas. And so where usually the talks that I do are very structured and observant and methodical, this one is about my feelings. And I heard Sweden is the best place to go up on a stage and talk feelings. So we're going to feel our feet, we're going to hold our hands and do a drum circle African style. And I'm joking. I do have some boundaries, not all of them. But essentially, yeah, so my journey into technology was about a dream. It was about building things. And as was introduced, I run an organization named We Think Code. And in that context, our dream is we take young people that would have been excluded and we train them to become software developers. My dream is that people who are smart enough but get excluded can have an opportunity to do well. Prior to that, in the work that I've done in consulting, the dream is like, okay, we arrived, there's a little bit of mayhem, let's make some software, let's make the problems go away. And that doesn't always work out. And I've been trying to track to, why is it that it doesn't always work out? And in thinking of it, I thought about Thabo Mbeki, the second president of South Africa, the one after Nelson Mandela. And his biographer named the biography A Dream Deferred. And the idea here was that the African National Congress, of which Thabo Mbeki, it's his life, basically, in South Africa had this dream that they were going to, after apartheid, break everything down, make everything inclusive, housing for all, education for all, free movement. You've heard of the Rainbow Nation. That was the dream. And in Parliament, he quoted this poem that speaks to what happens when a dream is deferred. And when you read the biography, it goes into the trauma that's experienced and the potential uprising when people are sold a dream and it doesn't quite work out. So South Africa today, 29% unemployment, near 40% when you look at it for youth. Electricity is a problem. We've just come into a recession right now. And so it's like we dreamed a dream. It was going to get better. And some people got rallied together. People died for this. And then here we are, we wake up and the dream hasn't been realized. And I saw a parallel between that, and I know it sounds like I'm being dramatic. I had other ideas of what I could call the talk. One was a dream deferred. Another one was the lies. And then the third one was how software sucked the life out of my soul. And then I thought, okay. Maybe that's a little bit morbid. I don't think even Kevlin could make humor out of that. So stop it already. And I stopped and went with the dream deferred. So what happens when you're sold a dream? What happens when you sell a dream? And then because of your choices between the dream and the execution, the dream doesn't come to life. You know, why does it keep happening? Are there patterns that we can see? And in my career, there have been a few dreams. There have been dreams when I've worked on a project and the view was clear and it was a lot simpler. All we're going to do is we're going to build these applications that users can use. Step one, we're going to rely on consuming these back-end services and the services are not there. And someone speaks up and says, the services are not there, we're claiming deadlines that are going to happen, we can't hit those deadlines with services that are not there, can someone please raise an alarm? Seems simple enough, naive child that I was. Alas, no, it's a politically loaded statement to say that. Because there's a person in the room who sold a dream that those services were forever ready. There's another person who sold a dream that we're going to beat the competitors by landing this thing. And there's another person who sold a dream and said digital transformation is everything and it's magic and it was here yesterday already and we're part of the game. And so when this little girl from Zimbabwe shows up in South Africa and says, but the services are not there. Oh my God. How dare you Be quiet, don't say it like that, phrase it differently. And by phrase it differently, what they really meant was, do not admit that we are nowhere near ready and we're never going to achieve this goal. And somewhere in there, in the stress of frantically being up at night, trying to join together with bubblegum these ends that are never going to meet, the stress was overwhelming. It's like, okay, this is not okay, this is not true, you know? Other dreams, you come together and it's like, okay, we're going to go to this organization, we're a for-profit organization, we're going to do some work pro bono, and we're going to show up there, and we're going to help them out because their systems are a mess and they're doing important work. I get assigned to the thing, I'm supposed to get a team of competent people, alas, there's no team, right? And the CEO of this organization has been told, no, we're passionate, we sign up, we're going to go help you do good work in the world. And I'm trotted out as the lead of this team, and I'm arriving, yes, we're going to do the things, and I go back to the office, I'm like, yeah, now we need some real humans who will sit in front of real computers and type real code to solve these problems. Alas, no. We don't have people available because from a profitability perspective, those developers have been assigned somewhere else. Maybe this junior first-year dev who's here is available. Again, what did the little girl from Zimbabwe do? Goes to the head of the company and says, well, you told us we were going to go and do this big important work in that nonprofit space, and here we are, and there's no people assigned. Again, no, go there, keep pretending, keep selling dreams, keep telling lies, mess with people's real lives. And I think when I say it, there's probably resonance in the room around it, which is, so are we developers or are we politicians? Are we human or are we dancer? What are we really doing? Why are we telling these lies? And what do we think is going to happen? So away from my personal experiences, there are many others. I don't know if anyone's read the book Bad Blood. Show of hands, has anyone seen that? The ultimate journey in technology vapor. They sold vapor. Okay, we're going to take, instead of big vials of blood to run tests, just a pinprick on your finger, we'll take the blood and we'll run all the diagnostics. And they actually opened up clinics in pharmacies where they were taking pinpricks of people's blood from there and claiming they were running tests on diabetes, claiming they were running tests on, people with problems with heart disease and blood pressure, etc. But it was vapor. There was nothing. There was no technology. There was no ability to do that analysis on so little blood, messing with people's lives. Billions of dollars poured into this thing, crazy market valuation, and then by the time it got to the end, it became apparent that the few tests they were doing, they were running on traditional machines. The traditional machines needed a lot more than a drop of blood, so they were mixing up the small drop of blood with whatever, all these chemical compounds so that they would have the right volume, so that they could run it on a traditional machine that can now no longer do diagnostics because it was never designed to do that with such a low concentration of real blood. So yet another dream. And the consequences are like catastrophic, right? Because real humans need to make real decisions about their lives, and they're having to make them on the back of lies, right? Facebook, all we ever wanted to do was to make the world connected. Not tell lies about who did what and steal elections. Cambridge Analytica, anyone? So you look at that and it's like, but you sold us a dream. You told a young woman from Zimbabwe, a country which, because of its economic chaos, everyone I grew up is sitting in another country somewhere else. They're sitting in Australia, Sweden's too cold. They're sitting in Australia, they're sitting in the UK, in the United States, etc. Isn't it amazing that wherever in the world I am, I get to sit down, and this big explosion that happened in my home country that scattered everybody out is somewhat balanced by the fact that I can follow up with my high school friend, my childhood sweetheart, or the second or third or fourth one, I'm not sure, there were a few. But the point is that that's what you sell, that's the dream. And then you wake up to find out that no, when you're sitting there just checking in and finding out that your friend just had a baby, and from far away you can be excited and celebrate and join in on that, someone else has an agenda that's different from the dream they've sold you. And how does that make you feel? But it's easy when it's up there. It's easy when it's Thabo Mbeki and he's a politician. It's easy when it's Theranos, and it's easy when it's Zuckerberg to say it is the other. Those people that have no ethics, that sell people dreams, that lie. I would never. But is that really true? Or is it just you haven't had the misfortune of running a country? So your lies are, at least the blast radius of your lies is here. So when we have conversations over coffee, you can pretend they don't exist. And so it's one thing to sell an idea. It's an entirely different thing to actually usher in change. It's one thing to step in and say, technology is impactful and it's rapidly changing and it can make a difference for you. Your data is a mess. We know how to pull your data together and clean it up and give you rich analytics so that you can now tap into your market and go further and grow your business. But can you? Do you really know how? Do you even know where the data really is? Do you know how to clean it up? Is it reliable? Are you lying? Are you different from Zuckerberg? Are you different from Elizabeth Holmes? If I gave you a country, could you be Thabo Mbeki? And so this is the question. And I've grappled with it in a personal sense when I faced these moments of conflict and contention to say, there's an easy way. I can pretend the services are there. I can lie that there's a team that's building the pro bono solution. I can pretend that students in a school that we're trying to build up are passing at a higher rate than they really are. In my small little world, I can join the clown car. But do I want to? And so we say we build software because we want to make an impact. That's what we say. But there are no victories without discipline. And if we want to make the impact we want to make, we have to start to look internally and say, we claim to be one thing, but are we really that thing? And the reality is, are you who you say you are, or are you what you do? And I've started to feel like maybe for me personally, I'm what I do. And that's why this talk for me is around, well, what are some of the things, some of the moments when it gets slippery? When it's easier to say the thing than to do the thing? And is the consistent behavior that we exhibit where we do things that are different from the things we say, in part the reason why the worlds we're in are the way they are? All it takes for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing, and women to do nothing. So in those moments when it's not true, when the code is not there, when it only works on your machine, why aren't you speaking up? And you just have stronger guts than mine? Does it not eat you? When you're telling little lies and they become bigger lies and they become gigantic lies, and then people get affected. Does it bother you a little bit? Maybe a lot? And this is the innovator's dilemma, actually. There are studies on this thing. Clay Christensen passed away recently, but he's done a lot of work around innovation. And his view is that people seem to think that large established organizations miss the trick. They don't find the innovation because they're stuck in their way. They're making their money off of what they've always done. And because they're making their money off of what they've always done, they don't know to innovate. But apparently the reality is quite different. The reality is actually a lot of large established enterprises that are doing well do identify great innovations because they have access to a customer and they've got visibility of what a customer is doing. What happens is that after they've identified the innovation, their commitment is maybe not so much to the innovation, but to the status quo. So we've got a great idea, but no, the market share's over here. We haven't quite figured out how to make it work incrementally, lots of little steps to go, but no, let's just tell everybody, we're going live next week, right? I don't know if you guys are familiar with a few years ago when Barack Obama was president of the United States and they went live with that big insurance thing, and it was an unmitigated disaster. And they had 100 developers sitting all over the show trying to build this thing, and people are trying to sign up, and it's crashing. And they knew enough to know they had a problem with healthcare. They knew enough to know that people needed to sign up. They knew enough to know that it needed to be easily accessible to sign up. Did they know enough to tell the truth that they weren't on track to go live? No. So that means at this large scale of policy that is the United States government, they know they needed the innovation. They designed the innovation, but they couldn't land it. Why? The name of the talk, the lies, the lies, the lies, the lies. How software sucks my soul. Because we sit in these little rooms and I don't know what it is with us and fibs. We tell fibs. And so this is my new theory, that your loyalties breed your outcomes. The things you actually choose to align yourself to, as denoted by your behavior, are really what you value. We will measure you by that. Not by what you purport to care about, not by what you claim your agenda is, but by what you actually do. And there's a few patterns of misguided loyalty that I've observed, at least in what I do. And the first one is nostalgia. When we remember the days, I'm actually in the middle of a bit of a Twitter war right now with someone because I was in a meeting in South Africa and I mentioned that I sat in a meeting with a group of older white South African gentlemen in the center of the city of Johannesburg. And under apartheid, I wouldn't have been allowed to go there. And they literally just had this 15-minute discussion about them, among themselves, about, oh, when we were able to just walk around here safely, we need to work together so that we can go back. Sorry, when you say we, am I counting? So anyway, in the moment I kept quiet. Later that evening, I post on Twitter, it's hurtful when white South Africans refer to going back to a time when they were safe in the inner city without realizing that I wouldn't have been allowed to be here. And to me, in my mind, it's like, let's not go back to that time. Let's move forward to a better time. And someone says, in response to me on Twitter, this is the single biggest problem with this country today. This zero-sum thinking. And I'm like, what? Sorry, what? Like, there are many dramatic, angry black woman ways I could have expressed myself. I chose none of them. I only chose to say that I was hurt, which I was. And I put a question at the end that maybe I should have spoken up, because I didn't. And I did it in a way that I felt, if any one of the people that had been in the room speaking saw it, they would have seen that I did not claim I understood their intentions. I did not think they were trying to be racist. I did not think they were mean, terrible people. But when they speak like that, my feelings get hurt. And someone is like, no, be quiet because you're causing problems now. Talking about your feelings. Let's all pretend like it was better before, when you were locked up in a township chased by dogs and not allowed out of there. Let's go back to there. Why does that bother you? Because now you're bothering me. And so, to me, these are the things that happen as we're moving around. But we do it in software. We do this thing. We've decided that we're going to go buy this crazy licensed product that they came and they said was going to make magic for us. Doesn't integrate to anything. The only way to make it integrate is to modify it. Now that it's been modified, we're not allowed to go in and upgrade it. So now it's unsafe. We've got people's data on there. Stop it already. No, but we want to go back to a time when large enterprise systems relied on ERP systems, and it was perfect. Don't come here with your new ideas. Because when we, back then, were doing it that way, it worked perfectly, which it really never did. But we're telling lies, because that's what we do. And then little black girls from Zimbabwe sit at that table and like, oh my God, lies make me so stressed. I need another job. I want to go work with kindergartners because they haven't been damaged yet. They are pure. right? And so this is the thing, the nostalgias, where we rewrite history, we revise it, we scrub out the dirty stuff, and then we make it pretty, and then we stop people who have the better idea from stepping up because it's too much trouble to deal with all these thoughts they have, right? So nostalgia is one. The other one is the sunk cost fallacy. And this is a big one. I spent so much money making that mistake. How dare you tell me to stop wasting more money making that mistake bigger? Who do you think you are? I've literally had clients say to me, well, we've already spent 50 million rands building that thing, and you're saying we should just throw it out? And I'm thinking, yes. Because if you don't, you're going to spend another 50 million, and we still won't have working software, so stop it. 50 less than 100. That seems like basic math. Even I can do that in my sleep. Genius CEO with $1 billion budget. Like, literally, I get quite confused, right? Because, no, we can't admit it's not working. Because if we admit it's not working, then we must admit that the decision that we shoved down everybody's throat, that we canvassed as politicians, was a bad decision. So let me keep this lie going. Let me keep trying to convince everybody that I know what I'm doing, and out of a rock, we can squeeze water. Alas, rocks, water, not a real thing. Fiction, basically. So sunk cost is the other one, where we all make mistakes. We all make decisions. But there's something that happens when we've spent money making mistakes. And we suddenly say, no, because I spent money making the mistake. It's not a mistake. I don't know. You're going to have to help me during Fika to explain. I don't get it, but it happens too often. And so more money, good money, goes after bad money. Good people quit because they can't deal with the mayhem and the stress of being told to stick a thing together, because the moment we admit it's wrong, literally it goes from the balance sheet to the P&L, and the business loses money, but it's actually losing money because that thing is not generating income. But, the lies, how software sucks my soul. And so that's the reality that comes out of that. And then there's the quick wins. Let's go for the low-hanging fruit. Does that sound familiar? The quick wins. Anytime a developer says to you, we just, oh, okay. If you hear a developer say just, raise your hands and start screaming. That is literally, it goes downhill from there. Just after they say just, it goes downhill. Because in that moment, it's like, we just, and it's like, so why didn't you just do it already? Why are we still doing it? We just, anytime you hear just from a developer, you're in trouble. But this is the thing. There are no quick wins. What ultimately feels like a quick win is many years of rigor in what you were doing that puts you in a position where you can finally tweak it this way and reap the reward of much work. But there are no just. I remember consulting with one particular client. They were going to revolutionize everything that was going on with this new financial product. So now they just needed to buy it. And it's like, this is a revolutionary product, you're going to buy it. Yeah, because we need a quick win. We need to be on the playing field. Right now, we're not on the playing field. We're on the sidelines. So if we can just buy it and, catch this, plug and play, then we'll be winning. Or will we? What's going to happen? We're going to buy it. There's nowhere to plug it. There's nothing to play. We've spent money. Now the cost is sunk, but we can't admit it. But when we used to plug and play things, we made money and we were competitive. The lies. There are no quick wins. There really just aren't. There aren't. There are moments where things come together and you win, but they are largely born of a lifetime of actually doing work. And so realizing that if you can make the next right decision, then the next right decision, then the next right decision, you're likely to be rewarded by one of those right decisions, finally igniting the fire that gets you to where you need to go. And so maybe invest in that rather than holding on to bits and pieces. And the next misaligned loyalty, personal relevance. This is what I know to do, so it must be about this, mustn't it? Because surely we can't go make it be about something that takes me out of my depth, right? I started this organization to save all the children. You're not really helping any of the children, but I said it already, so I have to keep saying it now. Don't tell them. Don't stop. Oh no, I started this thing and I set up this architecture this way and it's amazing. How dare you come here with a new idea? When we were doing this with Waterfall, we were, I don't know, still over budget, still late, still over promising and under delivering. But when we, it was better. And so now you want to bring this thing, but bringing this thing when it's not my skill set means I'm less relevant. How can I still be in charge? How can I be the most important person when you're saying the core of our business should be something that I don't know how to do? It should be about somebody other than myself. What? No. That's not our way. Has anyone heard that one? When you join a team and it's like, that's not our way. It's like, so make it your way, it's a better idea. Right? And so to me, it's like, the whole is bigger than the sum of the parts. If your role can rather be a loyalty to the team's outcome rather than your individual relevance, then maybe together we can build something that's powerful. But if your role is to be important, that means on any given day, we're all the backup dancers. When they were doing my mic, they were battling with the Beyonce hair and, so maybe I should have had backup dancers. But if it's about you in front and backup dancers here, now we can't make the right decisions because suddenly Beyonce must step back and let somebody else take a microphone. God forbid. And we do these things. And the patterns of lies are essentially about that, because the root of the lie is a manipulation. It's like if they find out the truth, if I do the right thing, can I still be the boss? Can I still be the CEO of We Think Code when they find out that I don't know how to do that? No. Can I still be the tech lead when the architectural direction of the project changes? Can I still be the CIO when I brought in SAP wall to wall and people are saying shift it around a little bit? Then what will I be? I sung IBM because when we were using it, it was perfect. But then now they want to do these new age crazy things. And so no, tell them that they're crazy, their ideas won't work. Don't admit that you're just scared, that you can't move with those times and you'll become irrelevant. And so the personal relevance elevated above the collective goal consistently creates tension within a team. I was up all night yesterday doing it. I actually worked with a developer who used to do this thing. We would sit, we would agree we were going to do something. He would work until 3 in the morning, arrive late and strung out on coffee the next day, having built something that was completely misaligned to what the rest of the team was trying to do, and then fight viciously that, but I've already started, I've already done it, I'm almost finished, we should just go with this. And it's like, well, we were sleeping, which people do at night, except the vampires. And before we went to sleep, we had this discussion and we had agreed what we were going to do. And then now you're creating tension and stress for everybody else, not because you've got a better idea, not because you were selfless in sacrificing your sleep for the team, but because you want to be relevant and you felt like the only way to achieve it was to run ahead and do something that no one agreed to. And the last one is the strong opinions. We are deeply, deeply loyal to the strongest of our opinions. And the more ignorant the opinions, the more strongly we hold to them. There's this interesting thing that I've started to try to do in meetings when we're having a discussion and the argument gets heated. It seems that most of the time when that happens, it means we don't have enough information. And the more passionate people hold to a position, the less facts are involved in the position. And the more assumptions and the innuendos and the inference and the whatever. And it's like, well, maybe we should stop and go do some research on that piece and that piece. And instead of you arguing a theory over there and you arguing a theory over here, we can just resolve those parts with data and then make some grown-up decisions. Or maybe we should scale down what you're saying because we don't know enough. And let's make it an experiment and contain it, and then find out if what you're saying is going to happen. But no, I've already made the strong opinion and I've shared it. I can't let it go. And so strong opinions need to be bound by hypothesis. My theory is if I do this, it will result in that. And it's like, has it happened before? Can we use that as the basis? Can we design a small little experiment to verify if it's true? But let's not all trot out and spend so much money so that now it's a sunk cost. Now we really can't stop it because we spent $100 million doing it. And so, we've got to continue. And so, to quote a revolutionary, Amilcar Cabral, tell no lies and claim no easy victories. The loyalties are misguided when they're something other than the truth of what our dream was. If the runner starts and say that what they're trying to do is to make blood testing less invasive so that patients with chronic pain don't have to keep getting jabbed to draw blood all the time, and that they want to do investigation and research around how to run those tests with a lot less blood, that's actually quite an honorable goal. The problem arises when the loyalty is not to achieving that goal, but rather me, 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 me. When Facebook says, our goal is to keep the world connected, to bring the world closer to each other, that's a great goal. The problem arises when it's about advertising revenue, and where we should have been closer, we're torn apart because we're allowing people to push data across that platform that's actually not true, and that's being used to manipulate people. But if we admit that it takes 10, 15, 20 years of research to have technological breakthrough in blood testing in medicine, then no one's going to value our company today at $1 billion or $1 trillion United States dollars. So our loyalty is not to that outcome. Our loyalty is not to technological transformation or advancement. Our loyalty is actually to self-importance and standing at the top of a stage. So if you tell no lies, and you claim no easy victories, but you actually dream a dream, and you walk the path, guess what magic can happen? So there's some loyalties that I hold that I think have started to counter failure when my ego is running away from me. Because I have one too. It's a little one. It's about the same height as me. Small ego. And these things keep me in check. Disruption is actually disruptive. All change is painful. And the part that we don't want to lean into and accept is that change is particularly painful for change agents. About 3 times in my life, I've led organizations through a transformation. And there's a range of things that you have to do there. One is you have to let good people go. Another is that you have to make scary decisions in the dark. You don't really know if your decision is the right one, but a decision needs to be made, so you try. Another is that sometimes it feels like it's 3 steps forward and then it's 5 steps back. Just yesterday in We Think Code, where we recruit young people, we've introduced some new and interesting testing to try and track their aptitude. The first boot camp we ran, we nailed it to select people. Higher conversion. I'm passionate about getting more women in tech. We went from 17% women selected in that first boot camp, in prior periods, to 26% women selected in that first boot camp. I was super excited, ecstatic. Yesterday morning, I got the data on the boot camp that just wrapped. 3 women selected out of a team of 30 women. So here I am trying to transform an organization. You run forward, and you're a black woman at the helm, and I've gone even worse off than it was before I touched it. That's like kind of gut-wrenching. It was like a stomach punch. And then in that moment, I have a choice. I can come to Malmö and be like, We Think Code, amazing, great, black, powerful, transformative CEO. She's very dynamic. She's changing the numbers. Our stats look better. We're pushing towards 40%. Yay, us, yay, us. Bring out the pom-poms. Right? But the truth is, whenever you try to change something, whenever you actually care about something and you lean in and you say, I want women in the room because I'm tired of being by myself. And then now you're at the head of the organization and you're struggling to do it. It's painful. And I'm the change agent. I'm determined to do this thing. I'm determined to do it right. And so disruption is disruptive. If you want to disrupt, expect to be disrupted. The interesting thing is whenever you work with people and change is about to happen, the person who seems most enthusiastic about the change usually is the most problematic person. I've learned this. It's now my little acid test. When I arrived the first day, it's like, we need to change everything. The person's like, yeah, we need to change everything. Why I know? It's usually everybody needs to change except themselves. all of you need to change. Because if you could all change, it would be okay. So usually when you see people that claim to be change agents, but do not expect their own life to be appended, straight away, you know, that's the one. That's the one who's going to be that's the one who's going to go out kicking and screaming. Security is going to drag them out by the high heels, get them out the building, because that's the one. Walk the talk. Work in service of the outcome and not the headline. Much of the work you do that is actually impactful and powerful, no one will ever know it was you. No one will ever see you were there. When you sit in a boardroom or a room full of people and you're creating ideas, when it really works, no one knows whose idea it was, per se. Maybe you named it, but you didn't flesh it out. Maybe you fleshed it out, but you didn't execute it. So walk the talk. If what you want is change, serve the change. Don't serve yourself. Always be measuring. Factfulness. I don't know if anyone's read that book. It's a fantastic book. But the reality is that when we work towards increments over time, we tend to progress. So less of the passion and the panic, and more of the truth and the numbers. And the harder it is to measure doesn't mean they know, the more important it probably is to measure. So when you say you're trying to do something, increase the representation of women in your organization, and you're the CEO, check the numbers. Keep checking the numbers. And if the numbers are going lower, I'm failing right now, yeah? And that's okay, because if I don't find out that I'm failing, I can't make it better. So walk the talk, measure, and then get over yourself. Really, like I feel like that's the ultimate truth. Play the long game. If anything I did was measured on my emotions from moment to moment to moment to moment, that would be a scary, scary show. Like, we would shut down the Kardashians, and that would be the best reality TV show you ever saw. Because my emotions can go up, down, sad, excited, dynamic, depressed. But then you've got to measure the longer arc and say, okay, so we started out here trying to do these things. We've made some interventions. Is it getting better? Right? So when you look back on the numbers with South Africa, yeah, there's a lot of things that are a problem, but there's a lot of things that are better. For example, I actually do get to sit in the room and hear older white men say that when we used to, let's go back. I actually do get to go on Twitter and say, well, that hurt my feelings. And I actually do get to respond to someone telling me to shut up by saying, I will not. And so if you measure that arc, what you're actually seeing is a journey of improvement, right? If you look at We Think Code, first year of intake was 6% women. The second year was 13%. The next one was 17. I was like determined, still am, to hit 40% in the intake that starts this May. I think we'll probably get to about 30%. Am I disappointed because it's not 40? Yeah. But on the long game, we're trending in the right direction. Not only that, everybody on my team gets it now. They get it now. That we'll have more women and we won't lower the bar because they're smart enough. We just need to find them, encourage them, capacitate them. So the language of the team has changed. The motivation of the team has changed. It's no longer just my vision, my dream. It's everybody's vision, everybody's dream. And so when I'm in Sweden, freezing my butt off, getting that data, feeling mildly depressed, someone is like, no, don't worry about it. I'm just looking through the data. I'm trying to figure out what went wrong. I'll get back to you on Monday. I don't need to throw a tantrum and pretend like it's somebody else's fault, because in the longer game, we're moving towards what we said we wanted to do. And so I'm going to end with this quote. If you still follow it when it's hard, then you can claim it as a principle. If you give up something you want in order to have it, you can claim it as a value. This is totally stolen from Kent Beck with attribution. And so, to me, those are my parting words. Not a big tech talk about the software itself, but for me, about the emotions and the principles that surround what we do when we're building software, that make it a place that sometimes we just don't want to be. That make it a place that sometimes you just don't want to get out of bed and go deal with those people again and tell those lies anymore and build that thing that's never going to see the light of production. And so that's my appeal to you, is what are you really loyal to? What outcomes do you really want? And when you're throwing rotten tomatoes and eggs at politicians on stages, are you within the frame where you're operating actually sitting as a politician? Are you selling vapor in places where people need water? Or are you actually hunkering down and doing the hard work and the hard yards of telling the truth even when the news is bad? And so I leave that with you in the hopes that by starting to talk about the fact that there's dysfunction in transformation, there's dysfunction in selling innovation, and the more powerful thing is to take a breath, tell the truth, do the work, walk the hard yards, and allow yourself to be disrupted, then we can actually make meaningful, impactful difference over time. And I hope I didn't depress you too much. But thank you.